want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. By going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com, you can make this possible. On Friday, Netflix premiered the Ava DuVernay series called When They See Us. It is about the case of the Central Park Five. It is 5 young men, most who did not even know each other, who went to prison as a result for a rape they did not commit. It was one that, of course, dominated headlines in New York City and all across the country when it took place. Here is a clip from the movie.
The young men who have been arrested in connection with the attack. Roland is the charge on the side of a road in Central Park.
I know you've seen things. Maybe you had to defend yourself. But in the end, you have the same heart. You gotta carry that with you. Are you okay?
You're a convicted sexual predator.
See, that's the law, not the truth.
What those people stole from you, you can't buy back. But you don't gotta be what they said you were.
What is it like for you in here?
I'm surviving.
Go get your life back. Take it back.
All right, folks. All right, folks, come back to me. We have some technical difficulties here, so there we go. Joining us right now, though, is one of the Central Park Five, Raymond Santana. He joins us via Skype. Raymond, first of all, welcome to Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Thank you for having me, Roland. It's always a pleasure.
Man, it was it's a 4-part series. I watched all 4 parts Friday night, and it was beyond stunning, shocking to actually see the details, to see what y'all went through, to see how the cops coerced testimony, confessions, to see how prosecutors lied, how they withheld evidence, and how they refused to really investigate this and really damaged all 5 of you, years that you can't get back. For you, what was it like to actually see this, all 4 parts?
We saw all 4 parts in LA, and I was there with the rest of the fellas, and you know, it was very painful to take us back down memory lane, to relive the process of going into the interrogation rooms and being in there for 18 to 30 hours and all that pressure. And then there was things that we didn't really know about each other that we thought we did. We thought that we had a handle on the whole situation, that we knew everything. And then there was things that it just blew us away. And for the 5 of us, it made us relive the situation. It made us take a step back and reevaluate, and try to bring us even closer together. Definitely painful.
Watching it, and I remember, of course, it taking place. I remember what happened, but there were so many other details that we did not know about. The fact that cops were interviewing young men without their parents present, how they were actually lying, subverting justice to get them out of the room, beating confessions as well. And then, of course, you see what Linda Fairstein and the other prosecutor, Elizabeth Lederer, what they were doing as well. These are people who are supposed to be about, when you go to Supreme Court, it says equal justice under law. But the reality is that's not what y'all experienced.
That's right. 100%. 100%. It was the total opposite. Here was these, these these seasoned veteran detectives who, you know, they was the elite of the police force, and they was using these tactics on us that we never even heard of, that we didn't know. You know, there was no CSI, Law and Order, back in 1989, so we didn't know about the good cop, bad cop. You know, we didn't know that, you know, that Corey was going to be physically abused by the police in the precinct. So this stuff was all new to us, and it was just the great amount of pressure that they put us under that we couldn't handle as 14 and 15-year-old kids.
When you talk about, probably out of all 5 of you, I mean, it was just stunning seeing what took place. But
Yes.
but to look at what Corey went through, knowing full well he only went to the precinct to offer support for his friend, that he served more time in prison than anybody else. He was he was beaten and almost killed. Episode 4 was just, I mean, my mouth was wide open watching it. Were y'all all aware of the hell that he went through?
No, not at all. I mean, at the end of the day, everybody is going through, you know, everybody's going through their travels through the criminal justice system. And then when everybody gets out, you know, there's not really a conversation about it. And even when Corey gets out, we never really have a clue of the impact of how much he went through until we saw this series. And so it was an eye-opener. And for us, you know, it was about embracing him. He's our brother. That's my brother at the end of the day. And it was stuff that I didn't know. But you know, it was heartbreaking to see that. It definitely was.
The what was also stunning is that the way this was presented, as if all 5 of you were friends, when the reality is only Corey and Yusef knew each other. That scene of the 5 of you in the room for the first time, introducing yourselves to each other.
That's correct. That's correct. That's correct. I mean, we didn't know each other. And you know, at that point, it's like everybody understands in one accord what happened. Everybody in that room says, okay, we have been taken advantage of. And it's at that moment that we vow to fight against the system. Yeah.
There's an assumption that young men get in trouble. They come from fatherless homes. But the reality is several of you had fathers involved with in your lives. But you had police officers who also were taken into account, who were taken advantage of, also parents who didn't know better, who didn't know what was going on. In your case, having your grandmother leave the room, coercing your dad into signing your confession. I mean, it was. I mean, watching this, you're literally going, really? And then the next one, really? And the next one, really?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we came from good home. We came from good family homes. I mean, my parents, my dad didn't have a criminal record. Like, he never had dealings with the police. So he was just naive, just as naive as I was. And he was a grown man, you know, who was a hardworking man, who went to work every day, you know, and he worked the same job for 44 years until he retired. And so the system also took advantage of our family members. Yeah.
I want to go back to Corey. And it's hard for some people to hear this, but when you hear that it was God's divine order, here's the guy who went to help a friend out.
That's right.
Gets caught up, serves the longest time. He's moved around from prison to prison, unlike the rest of you. And he ends up being the one who comes into direct connection with the real rapist.
Yeah.
I'm literally watching this and I'm going, first of all, Hollywood could literally not write.
That's right.
No, Hollywood, no one could actually write a story where the guy gets into a fight with the actual rapist. They get separated. He goes to another prison and runs into the same guy who eventually is the one who confesses to being the real rapist. When you found out how all of that came about, what were you thinking?
No, it blew my mind. At the end of the day, like you said, this is This is a story that if you sat somebody down and you told them the story, they will look at you like you're lying. They'll look at you like you're crazy, like you made this up. But it's all true. It's all fact, you know. And at the end of the day, all you can do is put it up to God. He's the man. He wrote. This was written before we were here, and so he's the one that guides everything, and he's the one that shows who has the true and living power.
But because if Corey did not encounter this guy,
that's right.
You guys are still sitting in prison, or you still have the scarlet letter. You're still being trashed and dogged and slammed and not exonerated. There's no $41 million. I mean, if that didn't happen, and I'm just sitting there going, nothing but God could somehow make that thing come together.
That's right. That's right. I mean, even if Corey, because, you know, at the time, Corey, he refused to go to the parole board because they wouldn't listen to his truth. But if he had went to the parole board and he was granted parole, it would have been the same outcome. He would have never met Mateus Reyes. At the end of the day, Corey becomes the key. He becomes the key that frees all of us.
I need to deal with Linda Fairstein. Here's a woman who has gone on to become a successful crime author. Mm-hmm. And here's a woman to this day giving interviews saying y'all did it. Mm-hmm. She is ignoring all evidence, any culpability. And I said, I don't care. I said the cops involved in y'all case, Linda Fairstein, Elizabeth Lederer, every person who put y'all in jail should go straight to hell. When they die, they should say, Satan, how you doing? We did your work on earth.
That's right, 100%. And again, it's a test to God at the end of the day that he controls everything. This is the woman who orchestrated, the investigation, who was the lead investigator in this case, who was the head of the sex crimes unit and was given, ultimate authority to do whatever she pleased with us. And she's also the woman who leaked several quotes and much information to the media. She orchestrated this whole thing. And now that it's 30 years later, she's the only person that's still standing, basically taking the last stance, saying that we're still guilty. She's basically the only one, the only voice.
I am on Twitter right now. Here we go to my iPad. I want to read this for you. You don't see it? Okay, guys, let's figure out why you can't see it. But this is what from the Daily Beast. Ava DuVernay on reaching out to Central Park 5 prosecutor Linda Fairstein for When They See Us. I don't know if I've told anyone this, but she tried to negotiate conditions for her to speak with me, including approvals over the script. Here's a woman still trying to manipulate this story decades later.
Yeah, she stuck to the same narrative, and she will not get off that narrative, and it's that pride. It's easier for them to stick to the narrative and ride it all the way out than just saying, you know what, we was wrong and we messed up.
Talk about apologies. In the movie, of course, Ava DuVernay deals with Donald Trump. This is a man who wanted a full page, who wanted y'all to get the death penalty, took a full page ad out. He gave interviews as well. When he was asked during the campaign about this, he still said, you guys committed the crimes. And he's demanded apologies from a lot of people, and I've made it perfectly clear. I said he can go to hell as far as I'm concerned, demanding apologies from anybody, because until he publicly apologizes to y'all in Central Park 5 and your families, he should shut up asking anybody else to apologize for anything.
100% truth. I mean, it's a start. That's where he needs to start. He needs to start with an apology to us and our families, and then go down the line from there and apologize to all the people that he have ridiculed, made fun of, talked bad about. The clownish stuff that he does. We don't have to go through it. Everybody, the whole country knows. But it's definitely a need for him to start with apologizing to the 5 of us and our families. Definitely.
When we think about Colin Kaepernick, he has held these sessions with young boys across the country. Know your rights. There's a video out of a young black man being arrested by a cop in Decatur, Georgia. The brother's handcuffed, and the brother is saying, no, I want your badge and I want your name. And the cop tells him, F you. Cop's upset with him. And the brother said, oh, I'm clean. Y'all can do anything to me. And it's a black cop standing right there. Mm-hmm. And you see this white supervisor cussing this young man out, completely having the wrong attitude. And we think about what you guys went through. There were black cops who were aware of what the detectives were doing, and it was wrong.
Yeah.
And I had somebody who said, well, Roland, you can't blame them. I said, no, damn that. I said, you can. Because if you put that badge on, that uniform on, you are sworn to uphold and protect the law. And the reality is, if there were any black cops or any white cops or Latino cops or who were aware of what was happening then, they should have spoken up as opposed to what happened to 14 and 15 and 16-year-old young men.
That's right. That's right. I mean, it's just an attest to show how strong their agency is, that blue wall of silence is serious. I mean, when you had Mayor Bloomberg in office, I mean, he poured billions of dollars into their budgets, and he created a small army. He gave them the power to be what they are today. And so at the end of the day, this agency has run rampant, and that wall of silence has become that blue wall of silence has become very strong, and it's very hard to battle against them when you have billion-dollar budgets and you can get the best of the best. I mean, this is a shame. You know, we have to revamp that blue wall of silence. I mean, we even know that the quota was exposed. Stop and frisk was exposed, and they still are able to operate. They still are able to operate and move that the way they want to, and treat our people like we're second-class citizens.
Speaking of Mayor Bloomberg, Commissioner Ray Kelly, they fought this settlement. The only reason this settlement, this $41 million settlement took place was because Bill de Blasio was elected mayor of New York. Michael Bloomberg did not want to apologize, did not want you guys exonerated, and did not want to have to pay for the crimes of the NYPD, the crimes of the district attorney's office.
That's 100% correct. I mean, at the end of the day, Commissioner Kelly was in a deposition. Commissioner Kelly is, I mean, when this deposition is released, if it ever is released to the public, you guys will get to see it yourself and read it yourself. And I mean, he in this deposition, you know, he says that Mateus Reyes, who's the actual perpetrator of this crime, is credible for the 4 rapes and the murder, but he's not credible for the Central Park jogger case. And so this is what we had to deal with within those 13 years of Mayor Bloomberg in office.
Also, I tweeted something earlier. Had they done their job, there was a woman
there you go.
who was raped and murdered after a Central Park jogger. Had they actually pursued the right justice, that woman could still be alive. Her death is on their hands because they chose not to pursue the right killer.
Yeah, it's 100% correct. I mean, there were in the Nancy Ryan report, Mateus Reyes goes on to solve, I think, 4 unsolved cases that they didn't even know he did. And so this was how bad that they fumbled this whole case, even his case at the end of the day, you know, because they knew that he committed a rape 3 days in Central Park before the jogger case. So, you know, they was looking for him already. He was known as the East Side Slasher, the East Side Rapist. And like you said, Roland, if they would have did their job, this woman would have still been alive, and those other 4 rapes wouldn't have occurred.
Got some questions from my panelists here. I have Eugene Craig, CEO, Eugene Craig Organization, joining us via Skype. Dr. Avis Jones DeWeaver, a political analyst. Joseph Williams, senior editor, U.S. News and World Report. I'll first start with you, Avis. Avis, Joseph, then Eugene.
First of all, I just want to say thank you for being strong and surviving this. I am the mother of 2 sons. One is 15, maybe about the age that you were when this whole nightmare started. And I cannot imagine what it would have been like to see my child be caught up in this. So my question to you is, I've been seeing a lot of women in my network saying they don't want to watch this because they don't know that they can sit through it. I sat there and I watched all of the 4-part series this weekend, and though it was hurtful to me as the mother of black boys, I felt like I needed to see it for them and for you. What would you tell parents right now who are saying, I want to see this, I know I need to see this, but you know, I don't know that I can take it emotionally? What advice would you give them?
I mean, at the end of the day, parents need to see it because parents are the first line of defense for their child, and you need to be equipped just in case something ever happens to that child. I mean, I can get it. You know, episodes 3 and 4, and 4, especially Corey's episode, might be a little too harsh for kids, but they need to see 1 and 2. They need to understand the process of what happens in an interrogation room, what the tactics that police use on us, and how long you can be questioned, and how they can lie to you. They need to know about the read technique. We have to be. It's all about awareness. We have to be equipped as much as possible, and it's a shame. It's a shame that we have to have these conversations with our kids. You know, at 13 and 14 years old. You know, instead of teaching them, you know, how to prepare to fill out a job application or how to work, how to help them with homework. Instead, we have to have these talks about how to conduct yourself when you see a police officer. But it's sad. But it's very necessary that kids watch at least episodes 1 and 2.
Absolutely.
So, hi, yeah, I'm Joe Williams, and thank you again for sharing your story. It's really powerful and incredible. I want to know 2 things that keep sticking in my mind. The first is, how has your adjustment been coming out, knowing that you spent, you know, decade in prison because of something that you didn't do, and then coming out and hearing about Black Lives Matter and hearing about all these other things that are going on, that the problem is still there, number 1. And number 2, have you ever thought about suing Donald Trump for that ad and whether or not he is going to pay a price for defaming you guys in public?
Well, for the number 2 question, I mean, you know, that's an attorney issue. I don't know if it's possible, because when that ad was produced, the statute of limitations might have ran out on that, because that was produced in, I believe, 89 or 90. So I don't know about that. And then your first question was again?
Well, my first question was, it seems like since you guys were incarcerated, everything has changed and nothing has changed. Instead of having 14-year-old black boys going to jail for a crime they didn't commit, we have 14-year-old black boys getting killed in the streets by cops who have the very same attitudes of the police officers who are the ones who convict you. They assume, and the assumption is, you project criminality on black boys and black children, and you see a criminal and you're really, you know, the officers are willing to convince themselves that you've done something wrong even when you haven't, and they're more likely to pull a gun this time rather than just try to railroad you guys for something that you didn't do. That's the everything that has changed, is that now it seems like it's a lot more lethal, and nothing has changed in that the attitudes are still pretty much the same. You assume criminality when you see a black male. My question to you is, how does that make you feel? What does that put in your mind, the fact that you guys did all this time and you got a huge settlement from the city, but we still have this problem?
I mean, it's hurtful at the end of the day. Like, we became the poster childs for the labels of wilding and urban terrorists and Wolfpack. I mean, 41 states changed juvenile sentencing laws behind this case, and when we were found to be innocent and we were exonerated, nobody changed those laws back. They just pushed on like business as usual. And at the end of the day, it's like, we see there's progress, but there's not enough progress. You know, we have made some tremendous strides, you know, with Black Lives Matter and you know, even with Colin Kaepernick stepping up. But there's still a lot of work to be done. And it's going to take a whole village to get this done. It isn't just one incident. It has to be several incidents. It has to be several nationalities. It can't just be 1 or 2. We have to band together. And it's going to take a whole village of us to solve this problem. Well,
and you also raise an interesting point about the fact that the laws didn't change back, number 1, right. And number 2, everybody's got to get involved.
It's true. Everybody has to. I mean, you look at Raise the Age campaign, whereas we know, you know, it's proven. It's a fact that a male's his mind isn't developed until the age of 24. But if he commits a crime, you give him the harshest sentence that you can give him, and you destroy his life, you know. And now when he does come back on parole, he doesn't know how to function. For us, you asked that question earlier, and for me, you know, here was this 7-year gap. this was the critical point in my life where my dad was supposed to teach me, how to become a young man and how to become a man eventually. But in return, in essence, what happened was that was taken out, and this gap was replaced with prison life and how to adjust to prison, and giving me this aggression that I didn't know exists until somebody pulled my coat to it. And how do you, now you put me back on the street and I have these scars that cannot be healed.
And how do you undo that?
Yeah, and how do we do that?
Eugene?
How do we do that?
Eugene?
First, brother, I appreciate you existing. Appreciate your story. I'm a believer that 45 owes y'all a huge check if you can actually afford it. My question to you is this: what do you think should be the penalty for prosecutors and cops that engage in misconduct? Because that's what this is. You guys were victims of prosecutor misconduct and police misconduct. What do you think? I think we need to. It's great we're having a conversation of prevention, but until we can actually eradicate this crime, I think crime dissolves a responsibility and a sentence attached to it. And so my question to you, as somebody that's been a victim of prosecutorial mismanagement and police misconduct, what do you think should be the penalty for prosecutors like Linda Feinstein, who's now selling millions of books off of you guys' lives?
Yeah, I think number one, we need to take away the immunity. Prosecutors have the immunity. We need to take that away. I think that we need to take away the Reed technique for police officers, and they need to be held accountable. If you commit a crime, then there's a sentence for it, and they shouldn't be above the law. They break the law just like anybody else. Again, if these depositions are ever released from the police, that several of these detectives made, you will see for yourself. I mean, there's detectives in there who were in undercover stings and found money and kept it. There were detectives who retired from the police force, went down to Florida and became hired muscle for the mob and wound up getting caught in conspiracy cases. I mean, Mike Sheehan, he was under investigation by the federal government. This guy drove drunk several times. He hit a police horse. He was accused of stealing police time. Like, he would clock in at work and he would go to his sister's bar and he would stay there and drink all day. So these guys, they feel like they're above the law and they can do whatever they want. And it's time for us to strip away those immunities and have them pay for their crimes.
Raymond, you said a couple times already that if the depositions are released, have they been locked away?
Sealed.
Well, you know what? It's up to the law department for the city to release them, because last year, I believe, they released 100,000 pages of documents, and this was all stuff that we already knew, and there were numerous articles written about how we were still guilty. But we told them, we said, don't release just the first half, the 1989 and the trial. Release the whole thing. Let the media, let the public be able to see these depositions and view for themselves. And I don't know. I don't know if will they ever be released. I have no idea.
Well, we certainly can make a lot of noise.
Sounds like FYI.
And one of the things that I'll do when the show's over, I'll be sure to text Mayor Bill de Blasio and say, why don't you run for president? Why don't you release these depositions in order to release? I gotta ask you this. I just checked something. So apparently Linda Feinstein has deleted her Twitter account since this came out. And also Elizabeth Lederer is a law lecturer at Columbia University School of Law. Do you believe that the publisher of Linda Feinstein should drop her, and Columbia should say there's no way in hell that the woman who prosecuted the Central Park 5 case should be teaching anybody the law? Do you believe that Columbia should boot Elizabeth Lederer and Feinstein should lose her book deal?
100%. I mean, Elizabeth Lederer has been teaching at Columbia Law for a long time, and there was a petition that was issued. It had over 6,000 signatures to get rid of her, and Columbia Law has stood behind her. And all they have done was that they tweaked her bio, because on her bio she noticed the Central Park 5 case as like a badge of honor. And when this petition came out, they tweaked her bio and took it off, but she still works there. And so Columbia University is at fault for still giving this woman a job and letting her practice and teach law, knowing that she was involved in this case. And the same thing goes for Fairstein. There's no way in hell that this woman should be sitting there profiting millions of dollars off these books when we know that she was behind this whole case.
Raymond Santana, man, it's always a pleasure seeing you and talking to you. I would certainly hope that people learn from this and understand the power of television. In 1982, CBS aired a made-for-television movie about Linnell Jeter, a brother who was framed, who was convicted of armed robbery, robbing a KFC, even though he was at work. His company stood by him. They fought the Dallas County District Attorney's Office. And I've said this to people, that it was because since then, and it shouldn't be this way if you're black or if you're Latino. But the reality is, I tell people all the time, why do I use my credit card whenever I'm traveling? Because wherever I use my card, that's tracking my movements.
That's right.
And it was from watching that movie, and I was 15. I was 14 or 15 when the movie came out. Watching that movie put that in my head, and I've always done that. And so people have to understand, people who watch these 4 episodes, there's a lot you can learn from it, but I would hope that any young black or Latino kid, or even a white kid watching this, know your rights so you are not railroaded by cops. And like any lawyer will tell you, the moment a cop asks you a question, your first response and only response should be, I want to see my lawyer. I'm not answering anything unless I see my lawyer.
That's right.
Raymond Santana, I appreciate it, brother. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, brother. It's always a pleasure.
Yes, sir. Go to our panel here. Again, this was a hard 4 episodes to watch. You can't help but be pissed off.
Absolutely.
Watching it. I've been looking on Twitter. There have been people who say after 20 minutes they turn it off. I mean, you're watching it and you're getting even more pissed and more pissed. I know somebody who was saying, well, why should you watch it? No, you should watch it because it happened.
Absolutely. It happened and it happens. Okay, I cannot operate under the illusion that similar things aren't still going on today. And so it's important, as you mentioned, for people to watch this show, not only to, first of all, just give credence to the brilliant work that Ava DuVernay did in putting this together to educate us as a nation, but also so that you can know and your children can know their rights. Because I think what happens is people are operating under the assumption that if I'm innocent, it's okay if I talk. If I'm innocent, I should just go along with what they want us to do. But that's a lie. The police can lie, and they do lie, and they do it all the time, and they coerce people into getting themselves into deeper trouble, and that's exactly what happened to them.
Joseph, when I talk about, the pain, you watch this in the Yusef Salaam, his mother storms in, and it wasn't until she threatened to call the New York Times that they allow her to see her son. And they literally looked at her and said, you're going to call the New York Times, as if you actually think you can call the New York Times. I'm saying that to the people out there who hate the media, who hate the press, and there were a bunch of people in the media who went right along with this despicable storyline. But the reality is, in this nation, other than lawyers, no other institution exposes wrongdoing by cops and prosecutors than media.
Absolutely right. And the black media, we will underscore that point, that you have the black media that's telling the truth about these things. You have people who are invested in understanding the fact that this happens all the time. And that's one of the things that struck me about what you were saying, Avis, is like, this is the only one we know about.
Right.
This is the only one that made headlines. And it was that threat because you had a black woman who said that she knew what her rights were to a degree, that she knew that she could get some action, and if nothing else, then at least get them to pay attention to her. So I think it's very important for people to understand the fact that, yes, media has had problems, and yes, media had a role in this case, where you had a lot of reporters getting fed some information that was really not true. But at the end of the day, if you have a story like this to this degree where truth is going to be told and exposed, and it's easy to believe because we do know that this happens all the time, then this is one of the areas that can be kind of an ace in the hole if things get too dicey.
Let me give you some word about Linda Fairstein. You know, she was the prosecutor who put away the Central Park 5. She's made a ton of money writing books. Well, guess what? She had to resign earlier this week from Vassar College, as well as another group there in New York. Now she's been stripped of Glamour Magazine's Woman of the Year award, which she got in 1993. They now admit that they were wrong. This all comes on the heels of Ava DuVernay's drama series on Netflix called When They See Us. The petition to call for her to lose her book publishing deals and for Amazon to remove her books has now surpassed 25,000 and maybe as high as 50,000. I'm going to double check in a minute. It's on change.org. And so we certainly shall see what happens, but she should lose everything.
Everything.
Everything. No speeches, no books, no awards, nothing, because she is still walking around saying that those 5 committed the act, and we know that's a doggone lie.
I mean, I'm with you on this Linda Fairstein thing. I mean, you know, she should lose everything. But the question becomes, what happens when Amazon removes her books and then turns around and removes Farrakhan or Jeremiah Wright or your books, right? You know. And then, so I don't know where we're headed, but I'm just concerned because white supremacy never does anything without a plan after the first thing they've done. And that's the thing I'm a little
the First Amendment piece, Greg, is really important. Dr. Carr, is really important for us to understand the First Amendment piece, but the other piece of it is the whole notion of what's happening to our nation and the fact that we are more diverse and that people have to be not tolerant, but accepting of the diversity that we're experiencing.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment. Hey, guys, they're back. MarijuanaStock.org has another great investment opportunity. If you were lucky enough to invest in their last crowdfunding campaign, you know they raised a lot of money in just a few months investing in legal marijuana farms. Now, those initial investors now own shares of a publicly traded company. Folks, the last time, again, a lot of y'all missed it. Y'all were emailing me. Oh, what about it? Well, guess what? Now they have a new investment opportunity that is as good, if not even better than last. I'm talking about industrial hemp CBD. Now, for those who don't know, the hemp plant is the cousin to marijuana with a much higher concentration of CBD, which means hemp CBD gives you all of the benefits of marijuana without getting you high. Until recently, hemp farming was practically illegal in the U.S. and heavily regulated by the DEA. However, the 2018 Farm Bill changed all of that, making it legal to grow hemp CBD in the U.S. and creating one of the largest commodities worldwide. They need land to grow all of the plants. This makes for an incredible investment opportunity, and that's where our good friends at 420 Real Estate come in. Now, first of all, they're black. I'm saying that because a lot of African Americans are not in. Now, we were hurt by marijuana laws, and now white folks are benefiting financially from the change to those very laws. Well, the business model of 420 Real Estate is simple. They buy land that supports hemp CBD grow operations and lease it to licensed, high-paying tenants. That's right, they are hemp CBD landlords. And you can get in on the action. You can invest in this crowdfunding campaign for as little as $200 up to $10,000. Like I said, I'm not missing out on this, and neither should you. You should invest. Go to marijuanastock.org, marijuanastock.org. You can get in the game and get in the game now. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video. Oh, the hits keep on coming for Linda Fairstein. She's the woman who was behind the conviction of the Central Park 5. Remember, she resigned from 2 boards, including Vassar College. Well, today her publisher dropped her. All of this after the Netflix drama series When They See Us debuted last Friday. And so here we are a week later. Public pressure has been building against her. Of course, Raymond Santana, as well as Yusef Salaam, they've been leading a petition to get her dropped. They also want Amazon not to sell her books. More than 50,000 folks have signed that petition on change.org. And so now she loses her publishing deal. The hashtag cancel Linda Fairstein, this movement has been spreading on social media. Remember, also by Monday, after she got lit up by many of us over the weekend, she canceled all of her social media accounts. Now, and also the Mystery Writers of America withdrew their Lifetime Achievement honor for her, as well as Glamour Magazine, and other authors protested. And so none of this could happen to a nastier person. So glad to see it. So, Linda, we hope your ass go broke. for what you did to the Central Park Five. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. By going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com, you can make this possible. Let's go to some big news out of New York City, where activists there are demanding that all of the cases that Linda Fairstein was involved in when she was head of the New York Sexual Crimes Unit be reopened as a result of her actions in dealing with the Central Park Five. Joining us right now is Jumaane Williams. He is the public advocate there in New York City. Hey, brother, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing all right. How about yourself, bro? Thanks for having me on.
Man, always good talking with you. Bottom line is this. The Ava DuVernay series on Netflix has really forced a lot of new dialogue. Linda Fairstein, she's lost her book publisher, her agent, her book deal. She's had to resign from boards. Of course, Elizabeth Lederer has decided not to renew at Columbia University. But now this renewed call to reopen the cases. Why do you believe all the cases should be reopened?
Absolutely. You know, and as Tamika Manley said, I don't think that Sister Ava's series told us something we didn't know. It brought it back to light. It made it as personal in a way that we could not ignore it. And so a bunch of us soon after, Justice League, the Arc of Justice, got together and made some demands, some of which you have already said. But also, we said we want DA Cy Vance, who Lederer actually still works for, to fire her. And the second part, and probably most important, is to make sure that all of the cases that Linda Fairstein is supervised over, especially those that did not have any DNA evidence, should be reopened, period. You don't do the kind of thing that she did once. You do it multiple times. And we want to make sure that there aren't other people who are innocent sitting in jail right now. It's hard for us to believe that this was a one-off case.
Not only that, when you talk about that, also there were cops involved. And the fact that the city of New York has still not apologized for this. Raymond Santana, we had him on this show a week or so ago, and he said that the city of New York should release the depositions that were taken in their suit, saying because the people need to know what those cops said under the law and when they were sworn in. Do you also believe that the New York should open up those files, release those depositions unredacted, so people can know exactly what was said?
You know, this is a systems thing. All of the systems failed, and Raymond is right. I mean, we've seen, unfortunately, some of these things happen time and time again. With the Eric Garner case, there was actually the reports that were put on. There were things that just were not true, and we've actually had this happen in New York City multiple times, and everybody knows that there are cases, unfortunately, where officers have lied and there has been no repercussions. So I would say 100% yes. We want everybody to be held accountable. This is something that you can't just let go by because everybody knows how devastating it was. Brother Raymond, we all saw Corey Wise, who I've seen so many times, had no idea. He's a superhero to me right now, but we owe it to them and to the other folks who have been going through this and the people who we know are still in jail now to keep pushing forward. And we are not going to let up until Cy Vance, the DA, says that he's going to make sure that these things are reviewed and Lederer, who still works for him, is fired. And we should go further and ask for these depositions to be reopened so people can see what happened and the folks who were involved are held accountable.
All right, Jumaane Williams, public advocate for the city of New York. I appreciate it, brother. Thanks a lot.
Well, let me just say at 5:30 on Monday, 100 Center Street, we're going to be going to Cy Vance's office. We're asking everybody to join us, Justice League, Arc of Justice, myself, other electors, other activists. Please come on down and meet us in New York City, 5:30 Monday, 100 Center Street.
All right, brother. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Peace.
Lon Victoria Burger, I want to go to you. The pressure continuing on Lederer, on Fairstein. Activists are making it clear they're not going to back down from any of this.
Yeah, and they shouldn't back down because, you know, the public advocate, Mr. Williams, was right. I mean, obviously, this is something that's bound to show probably a prosecutorial pattern in her work. Obviously, the criminal justice system is very controlled by the prosecution side. You know, people get elected, politicians get elected, bragging about how many people they put in jail.
There's money to be made off of our criminal justice system, unfortunately, so there's a perverse incentive there in some cases. You know, I would imagine that, knowing New York, because I'm from the Bronx, that this will probably be a very lively discussion and a very lively protest on Monday, to say the least.
Eugene, Craig, what we're talking about here is, again, people demanding accountability, and that's what we're looking at, a level of accountability when it comes to these prosecutors.
Yeah, and I agree 100% with the activists. The thing is this: when you see one instance, 1 ounce of prosecutorial misconduct, you got to open up every case. Because the thing is this: our justice system is supposed to provide equal justice under the law. And if you find a trace of equal justice not being applied, you have to have reasonable suspicion that it wasn't applied in other cases. And so, you know, it's only right that, you know, and this is something that should have happened years ago. This is something that should have happened a decade ago when these gentlemen were found to be innocent. It should have been demanded then that the rest of her cases, the rest of their cases were opened up. But with all the new heat around the new biopic of the Central Park Five, or the Freedom Free Five, you know, the rest of the cases from Linda Fairstein need to be opened up. They need to be examined. And look, you know, if she did right by those cases, nothing to happen. If she did wrong by those cases, you know, then we need to figure out how do we properly punish bad prosecutors.
And if she's so confident about that, she shouldn't have any problem with the cases being opened up. She's
Absolutely.
saying that the documentary is inaccurate. Also, by the way, Michael Bloomberg needs to be questioned at some point. He was the one that held up the settlement money, and what was that about exactly? You know, I mean, I don't see anybody rushing out to say that this documentary is inaccurate. I don't see any defamation suits being filed. That would indicate to me that the documentary is accurate, and in fact, this insane miscarriage of justice is correct. This portrayal of it is correct.
Teresa, what this also shows us is the power of media. The fact that there was a Ken Burns documentary that was done several years ago, that was on PBS, that got some attention, that had the renewed hype.
Right.
But for this to go on Netflix, the most viewed shows, the most viewed series on Netflix since it premiered May 31st. And because Netflix is worldwide, folks across the world saw this, and not just in the United States.
And that's an example of the power of media, the power of digital platforms, but more so the power of knowing what our voice is and actually putting that out to the public. So, I mean, in one instance, we are supposed to be having these platforms and these dialogues and these conversations to bring light to the injustices, to bring light to various situations that are happening across the county. I believe, you know, Sister Lauren and Eugene earlier, when we're talking about doing an examination of those cases, because, again, every municipality has an auditor, has a city controller, and, again, that is their jobs and duties. So if it takes a platform like Netflix or Hulu to present not only the idea, but present the facts to the public so they can now be pretty much the law enforcer on these issues, then that's what we just got to do. And again, it needs to go further, and solutions need to be had.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Unfiltered video in just 1 month. All right, folks, they're back. MarijuanaStock.org has another great investment opportunity. If you were lucky enough to invest in their last crowdfunding campaign, you know they raised a lot of money in just a few months investing in legal marijuana farms. Those initial investors now own shares of a publicly traded company. And, of course, they're excited by that. Now they have a new investment opportunity that is as good, if not better, than the last. I'm talking about industrial hemp CBD. For those who don't know, the hemp plant is a cousin to marijuana, of course, and then it has a higher concentration of CBD, which means hemp CBD gives you all of the medical benefits of marijuana without getting you high. Now, until recently, hemp farming was practically illegal in the U.S. and heavily regulated by the DEA. However, that changed with the 2018 Farm Bill, making it legal to grow hemp CBD in the U.S. and creating one of the largest commodities worldwide. They need land to grow all of the plants, and this makes for an incredible investment opportunity. And that's where our good friends at 420 Real Estate come in. Their business model is simple. They buy land that supports hemp CBD grow operations and lease it to licensed, high-paying tenants. That's right, they are hemp CBD landlords, and you can get in on the action. You can invest in this crowdfunding campaign for as little as $200 up to $10,000. All right, folks, all you got to do is go to marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org if you want to get in the game, and if you do so, do it now.